Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Zach. On this channel, it's mostly science fiction and fantasy reviews with a touch of everything else related to books like comics and manga. But this weekly segment on the vlog updates, mini updates, I delve into everything besides just books that I've been consuming this week. So all media from books to movies to TVs to comics and manga. So with that said, and to start things off, it is what did I finish reading this past week? Yes, I'm about a one book a week person, and this week, totally out of left field from my plan from last week when I recorded this segment last week. I was starting on a couple other books, but yes, on Tuesday morning, I got my my hold on release day on the 9th for Dan Brown's latest Robert Langdon novel, which is The Secret of Secrets. So this is a book that I put my hold on at the library ages ago because, I saw probably a New York Times article or Goodreads article saying the next Dan Brown book was coming out. And when I thought about it, the last Dan Brown book I read was The Da Vinci Code. And this was early 2000s when the buzz around that book was everywhere. The movie was coming out, so hadn't come out yet, but everyone was reading the book, and I listened to the Da Vinci Code audiobook way back in the day, and it was great. It definitely kind of got me into reading. I love the world traveling, conspiracy theories, secret societies that the Da Vinci Code had. And when I saw Dan Brown was hyped up to release another book, I knew I probably should check it out because I just was feeling like that kind of book at the time weeks ago when I placed the hold. And to get it on release day was a bit of a surprise because knowing this is like mainstream fiction, I figured there'd be a super long wait, but I guess I got it early enough or the library got enough copies. With that said, I devoured it in a week. I loved it. I thought it was definitely a page turner, and it's really interesting to read this in the context of so many other fantasy books because it's written maybe similar with tropes as far as a pacing structure and characters, and it reminded me a lot of Catabasis by R.F. Kuang with the academic main character using their wit to solve puzzles, but with Dan Brown being an experienced author, that this is not his first novel. He's written Da Vinci Code, which was the second in the Robert Langdon series, and there's been multiple since then that I just totally skipped over. And you don't need to read any of the other books in the series. This is Robert Langdon number 6, and it's a standalone novel. You don't need to know any of the backstory. It explains that yes, Robert Langdon is a Harvard professor of symbols like we know from the Da Vinci Code, and yes, he's caught up in another crazy whirlwind mystery in some exotic locale. This time he's in the city of Prague, and he is solving this case that he's somehow wrapped up in. Even though he's not a detective, he has to use his knowledge of symbols and secret societies and meetings and puzzle out a couple situations he gets himself in this action-packed page turner where every chapter seemed to end on withholding just that small little nugget of information to make you want to find out what's happening next. Brown will end the chapter on the characters just about to reveal something, only to switch POVs to another subplot, and then we get back to what Robert and his team were doing, for lack of a better term, and we get that info dump, and we're just on the edge of our seats the entire time. I loved it. Thought it was a great read. 5-star read for me, not because it's some technical marvel. This is the chance of, like Marvels, it's like a Marvel movie. It's like a summer blockbuster film where you're just getting lost in the story and having a great time. And for pure enjoyment, I had a great time with Dan Brown's Secret of Secrets. So what am I reading after I finished that and had a great time with that? I got a couple other library books that were ahead of schedule with what I had planned for the queue, so I just started reading it because this is a great segue from The Secret of Secrets, and that is Cibola Burn, which is book 4 of The Expanse. So Cibola Burn picks up where the previous novel for the Expanse series left off. The universe has opened up. The gates from Abaddon's Gate is now connecting this vast network of planets, and James Holden and the intrepid crew of the Rocinante are off on another interplanetary adventure, solving some human issues while at the same time the proto-molecule big baddie in the background is stirring up some things so far. I'm about 60%, 65% as of this evening, so a little over halfway. The first half, not gonna lie, did drag a little bit, but around almost exactly the halfway point, a big event happens on the planet that they're currently involved with, and so far it's just been a great ride. The action is picking up. I want to learn more, and I think it's another great entry in the Expanse series. Having a great time with Cibola Byrne. And then when I finish this, since I'm about 65%, hopefully by the end of the week, I need to get back to what I was reading on Audible, which is Book of the New Sun, number 3, Sword of the Lictor. So I will be returning to that soon. And then my other 2 library holds that came available last week's planned, which is Barbara Truelove's Of Monsters and Mainframe. Looks like a great spooky season read. It's now halfway through September, so I do need to get on my at least one spooky season read for the season. And this sounds like a fun technology, monsters, lighthearted, sci-fi-ish novel, fantasy novel. So excited to read that. And then another library hold that came available out of the blue that I placed a hold on ages ago is John Steinbeck's East of Eden. Again, another novel that's totally out of left field for this channel because I usually find myself gravitating to science fiction and fantasy, but this came recommended at a work conference I was at a while back. Sounded interesting. It's one of those books that I see on a lot of best book ever lists, so I was like, yeah, let me at least place a hold on it. I'm sure I'll get to it eventually. And wouldn't you know, that eventual time for the hold finally came through, so I'll give it a shot. Not saying I'm going to finish it, but I will give it a good old try and see what all the hype or all the praise is about for East of Eden. And then shifting gears slightly to the visual medium and what we watched this past weekend. Very light weekend for movies, only 2. I think this is one of the only weekends we've only watched 2 movies. It is very rare for us because we're usually watching a ton of stuff, but honestly nothing new came out this week except the one movie we did watch. So it wasn't a great week for new releases. Maybe in that early fall lull, back to school time, that the holding maybe the summer blockbusters to release closer to Christmas. I don't know, but to start things off on Saturday, because we didn't watch a movie on Friday, we watched a Cool Fish, which is a Chinese comedy crime movie, another way to describe it. This one came on my radar because I saw the news that a Cool Fish 2 was coming out. So if 2 is coming out and getting some publicity, maybe we should check out what a Cool Fish 1 is about, since it was apparently good enough to warrant a sequel. And it was pretty interesting. The first half is kind of this comedy crime following these bandits, I guess you could say, that are committing a crime in a kind of lighthearted way. They rob a phone store, and it's a little bit humorous. And then about halfway through, we learn that some of the different storylines that we've been following with these criminals and the cops and everyone involved in this town are kind of intersecting, and it turned a little bit into almost a tragedy/drama film about the one character's sister who's disabled, and the robbers are with her, and it's all tied together. So it's one of those films where the different plot lines, of course, are going to intersect and weave together, and they all are interrelated by the end. But it was pretty decent and okay watch. That was a Cool Fish, the Chinese crime comedy drama. And then one of the factors of why we only watched 2 is because we watched Weapons, which was the big release as far as new to streaming this week, and definitely out of our normal wheelhouse for films. We don't watch horror films. It's usually action comedies, or a combination of action and a comedy, or action/comedies like The Naked Gun, or just general action movies like Marvel movies. But Weapons was different. I wrote a couple notes of my thoughts on it, but it's a horror film and it has a couple twists, so you definitely don't want to spoil the ending, because the ending was satisfying in the sense that it did wrap everything up, but it was definitely On the horror spectrum, there were some definitely creepy scenes. It took us 2 days to watch it because we would just pause it and like, nope, we're watching this at night. We shouldn't watch this that late at night. It just was a little bit too creeped out. We switched over to watch an anime or something, but Weapons was well done. It has a lot of big name actors, which was partly why we wanted to watch it because, okay, even though it's not horror, it's got like Josh Brolin, who Thanos, or Gurney Halleck from Dune. Okay, he's great. It's got a lot of big names, so we did give it a shot based on the strength of the casting. Very interesting premise about kids that suddenly vanish in the middle of the night from this one single class, and then it's sort of a mystery to uncover where they went, what happened to them, what caused it in this creepy little town. So it's like that small town horror vibe. Definitely weird just thinking about it, a little bit creepy, but at least it did wrap up pretty much towards the end and gave sort of a conclusion, even though, like most movies, left a little vague of what was totally going on. So that was our 2 movies for the week, A Cool Fish and Weapons. And yes, so what we cleansed our palate with, taking a slow approach to Weapons, was the normal run of TV and anime we're watching for this fall season. The latest episode of Alien Earth, what can I say? Of course it was great. Alien Earth is consistently, every episode has been great. Last week's flashback episode, now we're back to the main storyline, and we delved into the characters a bit more and saw a little bit, speaking of creepy horror, Alien is horror technically. There was some creepy monster stuff, alien stuff going on, but not with the xenomorphs in this episode, but it was definitely a little weird and icky with the aliens in the zoo and their interactions with the characters. So a little bit creepy, but not full on horror like Weapons, but still great. Loving the lore building and the world building in this series. And yeah, we just caught up on our rest of our anime of the season, which is Dan to Dan, the latest episode, Sakamoto Days, latest episode, Clevitus, latest episode, still great, and Kaiju number 8, latest episode, still great. They're all series that we're watching are definitely winding down. We can see that the setup is sort of leading to the final episodes and getting ready for the season ending and the next arc, specifically talking about Kaiju number 8, that everyone is sort of gearing up and powering up in this latest episode. And next week I can see it, the new threat is emerging towards this episode and it's going to come to a head. It definitely won't resolve itself in a single episode. This is going to be the lead into the next season, leading to the next conflict for our characters, our lovable team in Kaiju number 8. But yeah, still Kaiju 8's a guilty pleasure. It's shonen, it's fun, it's a little bit humorous, it's got good action, and the plot is advancing. So those are what we've been watching. And then what else I've been reading? Actually, speaking of anime and manga, I've been reading Vinland Saga. So I read the first volume of the Vinland Saga Omnibus. This was a series that took me a while to get into. I definitely started it multiple times and just never got over the early chapters where Thor is just defending this initial village. And it didn't click at first. But for whatever reason, even though I tried again and again, this time it finally is clicking and it's getting interesting. So starting even in volume 2 of the omnibus, that we're now seeing more of the world. The Vikings are on their journey. The first kind of intro chapters are done, and we're seeing Thor's son come into his own and the wider Viking world. So it's getting interesting. It's not a masterpiece yet, but it's definitely engaging the story. So enjoying Vinland Saga so far. And I haven't really found anything else at the moment that I'm reading. I always kind of scan the latest. What are some interesting new releases of mangas or old classics that I never read? And nothing has drawn my interest so far, but always on the lookout for reading something in the manga genre. Or I feel like I've neglected my Marvel Unlimited subscription lately. So any comic recommendations in prep, why it's on top of mind for New York Comic Con coming up in about 6 weeks. So I need to maybe freshen up and brush up on a couple latest releases from Marvel. So if you have any recommendations for Marvel or manga or books or TV or movies to watch, please let me know. Thanks for watching this update on what I've been reading, watching, and share anything that I might have missed these couple weeks with on any streaming service. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Have a great week.